Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Blackness Friends. For me, Robert.
With me, Pete.
No Moses. I
No
don't actually
Mo.
know why he's not here this week.
Oh, because he's got that writers and scribes, I think, monthly appointment that he has to go to on the Thursday.
Shout out to scribes.
Shout. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have any news this week, so maybe we should just go straight into it.
All right.
It's the Rock and the Rockstar and the Rockstar's wife in the background.
Rockstar's wife. That's cool. Hello, Rockstar's wife's hand.
You got to hand it to her.
It's disgusting. Cool.
Go 1 for 1?
1 for 1. Yeah.
One of my phones making noises. I was saying it's time to sleep. All right. Shall I go first? Do you want to go first?
Yeah, you can go first. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, Peter, when it comes to married couples, you see how if they're having marriage issues and things aren't going too well, like one of the first questions they get asked is, "How's the sex life?"
Yes, I've seen this before.
Look, yeah. My question today is, do you think Christians should check up on each other's sex lives even when there isn't any marital strife in the end?
Oh, saucy one.
No.
Oh, why is that?
Because what's so
As in, like, checking
Yeah.
the same way you might check in with, like, how's your work, how's everything going, you know?
yeah, no, because the sex is an intimate thing between two, and normally, I mean, that question has become sort of a barometer, if you will, of what the situation is. And I think unless there's need to check the temperature, then there's no need to be regularly checking the temperature, as it were.
But shouldn't you be checking the temperature before the water overboils?
Yeah, but then I think there's other things you can check, and that checking that I don't think is is that the end or be all. Okay, you're smashing every night, but you're also smashing 2 other girls because you got the spirit of Solomon. Then what's the yes, the sex life is good, but yeah, it's of no consequence, as it were.
It's of some consequence, very much.
Well, as in asking about it, because I will ask and you say, yeah, sex life is good, we're smashing every night. And then it's like, but actually, there's other stuff going on. And so I think there are more important things to check in on a regular basis. And that question as to, how's the sex life when there's maybe an issue ends up being, I think, it's like it's a different stage of the diagnosis process. And I don't think that needs to be something that's made regular. Otherwise, it's just getting into people's business. And it's like, because the other thing as well is, so Lighthouse Chapel have this, and I can say them because they've got this is part of their resources. They've got the sexometer, which is a number of times you should be having sex. I think it's per week, and what the number indicates. So it's like if you're, I can't remember in detail. But it was like if you're having sex every night, then things are okay. If you're having sex twice a week or something, then you're dealing with the struggles of life.
No way.
If you're having sex once a month, then there's cause for concern or something along those lines.
Wow, once a month was a bit mad though.
So it was like, yeah, I think those end up being broad generalizations that also aren't applicable to every couple, because some couple, their sex drive both means they're having sex multiple times a day. Another couple, they're just having sex once a month, and that's more than enough for them. God help them, whoever they are. But I don't think it's so intimate and it's so personal. I don't think it's something that needs to become a regular thing. And I think when it is checked on, it's, as I said, it's at that stage of the process, that stage of the diagnosis where you've gone to see the specialist. It's not your regular GP that's asking you this, it's the specialist. And that's why I think it needs to stay.
Follow-up question.
Nonsense.
Just because I remember something that happened. So remember when we had our Valentine's episode at church.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like one thing that seemed to come up was husbands be wanting, more sex. That
Yeah.
was said inadvertently, there was
It wasn't just us.
No. It was said pretty much explicitly, just
yeah.
without explicit language. Yeah.
Apparently, it wasn't just husbands that was saying that. It wasn't my wife that was saying that, but
That seemed very important for you to clarify.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, the question is, what do you think, if any, should the church's response be to such an public outcry? If anything.
If anything, the church's response should be sensitive. Sensitive to the fact that there are different reasons for there are different reasons for whatever the occurrence might be. And, speaking of the Valentine's Day event, there were specific reasons for one of the couples why, sex hadn't been a thing in their marriage for a while. And those aren't trivial reasons. And so I don't think, I think whatever the response is, it has to be sensitive to whatever lies behind that sort of, the reason behind that sort of outcry, as it were. But then I also think it should be supportive of the partner who's desiring more sex, in that, no, your body and your partner's body is yours, and your body is theirs, and you should seek to satisfy each other in this area, even when it's not necessarily, but maybe when one person desires it more than the other, they should, out of love and out of obedience for the word, give themselves to one another, in love and in obedience. But then it should also be advocating for the partner who's wanting sex less to say, again, sensitive to whatever the reason might be, but then, trying to meet halfway. Maybe you don't want sex at all, or maybe you don't want sex as much. The person wants sex all the time. You guys have to figure out a way of meeting halfway, because there's also giving up sex if the partner doesn't want it, in love and in obedience to the word, in that your body is your husband's and your wife's, but then you also are called to steward that their body and to take care of them. And so if there's an issue, or there's a reason why they don't want sex as many times, you also, in love and in taking care of your partner, will have to meet them halfway. And so there's the compromise that will have to be met. So isn't that what marriage is all about?
Cool. Very nice. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. All right. So my question, I want to ask this on the podcast, because I've asked you guys before, and I've asked both of you before. But the question is, you are the last man on earth. The last man on earth. Whatever has happened, children of men occurred. All the men are gone. Obviously, it didn't take me out. I got raptured. But for whatever reason, you're the last man on earth. Would you be monogamous? Or would you seek to continue the human species through generously spreading your seed?
Jeez, that's the question, isn't it?
I recognize for the viewers and listeners that Drea is behind Robert. So make of that what you will.
To be honest, I think it, like, I remember the first time I asked this, I was just like, yeah, because I have to repopulate the earth.
And it was late, so.
But I think that the bigger issue would be why all the men have disappeared. Like, like if it's a virus that is just killing off men, then me repopulating the world and then the new men just dying is not going to solve anything.
Yeah, but then, I mean, if you're going to take it there, you've obviously not been killed by this virus, so it's likely something in your genes.
Jeez. I'm the superior race.
You are the superior race, bro. Alright.
Then in that instance, I think I might have to try and bear my cross.
Wow.
Very cross. I was smashing all these hoes. Cool.
I'll pray about it first, and then I'll pray about it. Because we've seen in the Old Testament, God makes provision. God makes provision for situations. Yeah, well, and if my wife was really, 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 really against it, I guess we could do that insemination thing. I could just knock one out.
Why is that not the first option, though? Why is that not the first option?
Because
it would be more efficient. It would be more effective.
No. That's not the way. That's not
It
the way
would
it
not
should
be
be
as
done.
enjoyable, I guess.
But I'm doing my duty as the last man.
You're not only impregnating, you're satisfying, yeah.
And they won't be singing about Father Abraham, they'll be singing about Father Robert. Had many sons.
All right, cool.
Many sons had Father Robert. I'll be the patriarch. God of Robert. That's what they be saying. Can I get an amen?
Can I ask a follow-up, switch-up question? If Drea was the last woman on Earth, would you let her repopulate the world by taking other?
No, because it doesn't work the same in reverse.
It doesn't actually. Yeah, it's only so long you can be pregnant for. Cool.
Oh, follow-up question for me, for you.
All right.
If adultery wasn't a sin in God's eyes, if adultery wasn't a sin in God's eyes, and monogamy wasn't something that God said He wanted, one man go with one woman, do you think that you would be monogamous?
So if it wasn't the case that adultery was a sin and monogamous wasn't prescribed, then I think our relationship with monogamy would be very different. It would be similar to, I imagine it would be similar to Abraham, Sarah, Hagar, Isaac, no, not Isaac, Jacob, Rachel, Leah, and her servants and stuff like. It wouldn't be a thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so not necessarily for the, and also I think then sex wouldn't be viewed as it is viewed now, because it's not adultery and is not prescribed for one person. So yeah, if the institution of marriage as defined in Genesis remains the same, that man will leave his wife and man will leave his father's house and cling to his wife, and the two shall become one. And sort of the requirements sort of for eldership and sexual morality in the Bible remain the same, then yes, I'd probably still be monogamous, because one of the requirements for eldership is that he's a man of one wife, in control of his household, and so that suggests to me this is something desirable of a person. Or of a person that's serving God. So if those things remain the same, then yes, I'd still be monogamous. But if by virtue of this, those things changed as well, then I don't think it would be as big a deal. And then it might just come down to, in addition to enjoyment, sort of propagating seed and stuff, as was in the case of, Jacob, Rachel, and Leah. It was literally like, I'm not giving birth. Here's my servant. Know her, that I might give birth through her, sort of thing. And so it wasn't a thing there. It wasn't like, what Leah purchased. Leah purchased Jacob's time. Is it Jacob? Yeah, Jacob.
Jacob, yeah.
Yeah. Leia purchased Jacob's time by giving some fruits to Rachel. It's like, okay, if you give me these fruits, then Jacob, and he's like, yeah, I've purchased you. Come and then smash. And it's like, so it would be different. It would be different.
Okay. Cool. All right. That's enough sex talk for now.
Amen.
Cool. Should we get into the topic for today? So, on the day of recording, it is World Book Day. Ooh. Did Zara dress up as anything?
No, she didn't go into nursery, so we're thinking of dressing up tomorrow. We just don't know what she's going to go as.
Okay.
And he told us, like, if we don't find anything, we might put her in some kente and she goes as an African, African queen. They all see it as a costume. We'll just see it as house clothes, but yeah.
Cool, yeah. So World Book Day. I was actually speaking about this with Andrea. I don't think World Book Day was a thing when we were in primary school.
I don't know about
But for you,
school.
obviously, it was not obviously a thing.
That's so racist.
What?
That's so racist. We had books in Ghana.
Yeah, but it's Ghana celebrating World Book Day.
If it's an international thing, yeah.
No,
We didn't celebrate it though. Fans.
exactly. Well, we did celebrate because it wasn't a thing. I think this is a new phenomenon, or more recent phenomenon. And so yeah, people are dressing up in all their stuff. Let me see if I can find out when it started.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's first celebrated in 1998.
98. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, interesting.
Well, so I've been about 7, but I don't remember. Anyway, I was not going to dress up with anyone, even though I was reading the books. I was quite a reader. I enjoyed reading. Unlike my brothers, they do not seem to like reading at all. I could be doing some exposing, but I shall not, because brothers can look after brothers. Anyway, so one of the most famous authors of our time, Roald Dahl.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've been hearing what's been happening with Roald Dahl recently with is it Penguin Books?
No, I just saw that Matilda was back in theaters.
Okay, so Penguin Books, who have the licenses to Roald Dahl's books, wanted to do some rewriting of them
I may have heard of this.
to make them more suitable for audiences of the modern era.
Yeah.
So I've got a list of the ones they wanted to change: Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, the Twits, Matilda, the Witches, and the BFG. They wanted to remove words such as ugly and fat.
Oh my god.
They wanted to not call the Oompa Loompa small men, but rather small people. And all of this good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they thought, they want to do this so that it would be more enjoyable for children of this era to enjoy the books. Inclusivity, you know how it goes. And obviously there was a lot of backlash, even from the Queen Consort. She said, you guys need to chill.
Is this the same lady that said to the African lady, where do you come from?
No. That was another white
I was like, she doesn't learn her lesson.
But yeah, and so they decided not to change the so rather they'll make these new inclusive books, but keep the old ones as well. And it just got me thinking about the erasure of literature and how every day we seem to be getting closer and closer to 1984.
What happened in 1984?
And so that's the George Orwell book.
I don't think I've seen it. I read it.
You would love it. So in as part of what happens, it's like a dystopia. And as part of it, there's a constant rewriting of history and literature. to keep up with the morals and ideals of the present. So like an example is, I think there were like there were like two or three big continents, and so two might be at war with one at one time, and so that's what will be written in the books. But then
When they make up, or they get
yeah,
into a fight with the other one.
yeah, and then they won't just
Revise
say, okay,
history.
now we're fighting. They'll wipe out the whole history and say the fight has always been this, and yeah, and I think we're also seeing it in like Disney movies and stuff. They're starting to tweak and remove things from like original movies.
Really?
Yeah, just to make it more palatable for modern sensitivities. Even what was it, Home Alone? They've
Yeah.
taken out Donald Trump completely.
I didn't even
from the
realize he
movie.
was in it. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a cameo in
That's
it.
sad.
They've removed him completely. They're going back and just tweaking things here and there. Um, yeah, in the name of making it more user friendly for today's people. And yeah, and so I just wanted to talk about the erasure of literature and the erasure of history and that kind of thing. And do you think that some things need to be erased, or do you think that it's important that we keep everything?
Someone said if history teaches us anything, is that man doesn't learn from history. And so, at the very least, it's almost inconsequential what they do. That said, I think it's an obvious, it's twofold. It's a fear of this sort of outrage culture that means if Penguin is to do some sponsorship later on in life, and someone comes and say, oh, you published this book that used this word ugly, and so we're going to boycott it. With social media, with the power of this culture, there's a legitimate possibility that could affect the bottom line. And so I definitely see a sort of proactive protection of their financial viability in doing some of these things in response to what's been seen. It's a smaller scale, but Kevin Hart didn't host, was it the Oscars? Because the internet found tweets he had done several years ago, and
Which were fine back then.
which were fine back then, and which he had apologized for already, and demanded that he apologize again. And that ultimately led to him not being able to do it. We also see the internet, effectively forcing the Snyderverse to be released, the Snyder Cut to be released. And these again are such huge investments that normally the audience have no say in. But then with the internet, we realize that actually the crowd have enough power now because they have a voice, which again, I'm sort of just because my head is going there, goes back to the Tower of Babel and what happened when people had one language and one voice, which is kind of what the internet has given people, is one voice, or at least the appearance of one voice. And it's interesting the significance of what happens when people have one voice. So I think there's that, but then I also think, and this is sort of maybe the more spiritual aspect of things, I think what is happening by the prince of the power of the air. And so if you're not a Christian, you might think this is theoretical or conspiracy theory. But if you are a Christian, then you should be aware, you should be cognizant of the fact that as we are on this earth, this is the enemy's domain. And I think there's a concerted effort by the one pulling the strings. Now, he might not be pulling the strings with Illuminati. He might not be pulling the strings with like some covert family that do occultist things. He might just be pulling the strings with people in prominent places that aren't Christian. I think there's a concerted effort by the enemy to coddle people and to make them less and less resilient, less and less strong, including Christians, because this won't directly affect a Christian, except you have a culture that is bringing up these super coddled, super weak minded, super sheep like people, and then when eventually things go pear shaped, and there's the whatever revelations ends up actually looking like, if it hasn't already happened, because there is that school of thought as well, you have people that are much more susceptible to control. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of this, a lot of revisionist history, a lot of fear of using certain words, because you're making people soft by not exposing them to truth. Like now, I literally have to revise my understanding of the English language to satisfy someone's opinion of themselves, regardless of whether or not that makes biological sense. I need to refer to, like, anytime Ezra Miller does anything, I get confused reading about it, because I'm like, they did this. I'm like, who is it? Is there one? What is going on?
Bruv, he is legit Legion, bruv.
And so I think there is a concerted effort by the powers, the principalities and whatever, to coddle people and make them less resilient and more controllable, more susceptible to control when that time does come. So I think there's those two things going on.
What do you think about that saying? Hard times make hard men make good times make soft men make hard times. Do you think that we're just in that part of the cycle now, where it's good times making soft men, and eventually we'll be forced to be hardened again?
I think that ends up being it's a somewhat astute observation of history. And this is what I mean by history teaches us that men don't learn from history, because we can say and acknowledge that, and that doesn't stop the soft men from being made. That doesn't stop things from going pear-shaped. So I can't say, definitively is that accurate in all cases, but it definitely seems like a reasonable summary of what's been going on. You look at history, you look at the way nations are made, the way nations fall, and there seems to be that pattern.
So in terms of being resilient, so another author they were talking about was Enid Blythe.
Enid Blyton or Enid Bly?
Whatever her name
I
is.
don't know Enid Bly.
I think it's Enid Blythe. Let me have a quick look. And so she, Enid Blyton.
Yeah, famous five.
So apparently she had a book called The Three Little Negroes.
That's right.
And so they went and changed the name of that book. And then there was another book where there was like a black doll, and it was being outcast by the other dolls until it went and stood in the rain, and then the rain washed away all the black and made it white again.
Damn.
And then all the dolls accepted.
That's right. Yo, tell me how you feel. Tell me how you really feel.
So with stories like those, you think that, looking at the time we're in now, is it right to put those to the side, or is it a thing that we should be saying, "Oh, just man up. If you don't like it, don't read it"?
No, because it's part of history, and I think it's important that we know those books existed, because it speaks to the times. Like, it legitimately speaks to the times, and I think we shouldn't wash these things away. We shouldn't ignore them. We shouldn't. It's effectively putting your head in the sand and acting like it's always been okay. It hasn't, and so I think those things should remain. Enid Blyton, I actually, so the name stood out to me because once this whole, LGBTQ plus thing started popping off, I realized that actually some of the seeds of that were planted a lot earlier. And her famous five, I think it's George in the famous five, who is a girl but wants to be referred to as a boy, and has changed her name to George and was wearing boys' clothes. And that was in Famous Five. And this is a thing that I watched growing up. Like, legitimately, Famous Five was supposed to be like, kind of like the Hardy Boys, kind of like Scooby-Doo gang, like solving stuff. At least that's how I remember it. And you had this, and it never occurred to me. It never was like significant, but I can only imagine, how many of the LGBTQ from our generation were inspired to see a girl who, identified as a boy at the time. There was not that language, and it was it was masked. It was very well masked. It's just George is a playboy or tomboy or whatever, and that. But she legitimately changed her name. I think her name was Georgie or Georgina or whatever, made it George, and also would wear boys' clothes. And I was right there, right in front of us, So I think these things I think they should be preserved for what they are. It's the same problem with sort of whitewashing, not even whitewashing, but almost trying to hide slavery. Like they don't get, I don't know actually. I don't know if they get taught a lot about slavery in this country.
I don't remember getting taught about slavery.
Yeah, exactly. I don't remember it either. And sort of Britain's involvement in it, that sort of gets swept under the carpet, nicely. I was like, no, we need to be cognizant of these things and of the ills and the flaws that our nation has had, in order to just be realistic about where we need to go. The Crusades and all of these things end up being hidden, and so I don't think these things need to be sanitized for current sensibilities. I think people need to recognize that things have not always been a certain way. What do you think?
I totally agree. History is what history is, and in the same way you can go to a museum and look at things from the past, you should be able to read a book and be like, "Oh, this is what people were doing."
Yeah.
Like I think about old school Disney, where they would have their Gollywog like characters.
Yeah.
When they had the Africans doing a Unga Bunga kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Think about Mr. Popo. Think about the original Pokemon Jinx. Before it was purple, she was black. She was legit blackface.
I've heard that thing about anime and how they do black people.
Yeah, and even I'm thinking about flipping. Lady in the Tramp.
Lady in the
With
Tramp.
the Siamese cats. We are Siamese, if you please. Yo, that was crazy. To even Dumbo, where you had the crows that would like the black guy singing.
Yeah.
Fact, all of that stuff is great. Sometimes we might look back at it now and feel like, right, that's a bit mad. But it shows a growth and how things have evolved.
Yeah.
And the problem with cancel this, erase this is you might think you're on the right side of justice now, but even this conversation that we're having right now, in 10, 20 years, we could lose everything because of what we're saying.
Yeah.
And the same people who are coming with the pitchforks might come for you one day. So it's a dangerous game to play. Either that, or you will be continuously made to conform to what the masses are saying. This is the right thing to do, or this is the right way to think. And there's only one right way to think. There's only one right way to do it. Like I remember when Joe Biden was on the Breakfast Club, and then Charlemagne the God asked him, why should black people vote for him? And he was like, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. I said black people are a monolith, and all black people should think one way and have one political view. And if you deviate from this, then you're not black. And I think we see that in our culture, like if you don't talk a certain way, or you're talking like a white person. As if black people can't talk a whole different way, different ways.
Yeah. And even with that, there's something insidious there. There's something very insidious there that because the way a black person talks as presented by that rhetoric is, well, wrong. Like that's not how the English language works. And so it's like for you to speak the underlying sort of very subtle idea is to be black is to be uneducated and wrong, and to be right is to be educated and sort of articulate. And it's like, If that's not the devil, I don't know what is.
and in trying to be inclusive, we're just causing so much more division than there was before. You know what? Maybe the world just needs to burn and then regrow from the ashes once again. You know,
Well,
God said He wouldn't do a flood. Maybe we could have a worldwide earthquake,
well, that's the expectation, isn't it?
or maybe parademons will come. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Talking about revisionistness. That's the word I just made up.
Evidently.
Um, how do you feel about there being so many translations of the Bible? Some quote unquote better than others. Some like the message.
Yo, relax. If people don't like the message, man.
And do you feel like there's any need for any more translations of the Bible, or do you think that with the plethora we have at the minute, it's enough? At least for like the English written ones, you know.
No, because I think the beauty of God's word is that it's designed in such a way that so long as you come to the word with the right intent, regardless of its translation, God is able to meet you. And so I think, whatever the translation is, and all of these translations end up having different reasons behind their translation, be it, making it, recontextualizing the language with today's language, like the message, or based on newer findings on advancements in archaeological finds and what that means for our understanding of translations. Because again, we do by grace have significantly close to the original manuscripts, right? And so there is always the original upon which these things are based. And what we're finding is they are improving in their ability to translate. They're improving in their ability to understand what that original language was. And so as the technology advances, I think, if that's resulting in clearer, better translations, then yes. Especially we've got the technology that can do it. We've got we're increasing in technology. I think that's fine. I think the underlying truth is that the power of God's word is not limited by the translation, in as much as it can be sort of maybe distorted somewhat. Some of these translations be a bit sus. But God's still able to work through it, and He's still able to meet people. So
how do you feel about translations like the NIV, where there are like pieces of scripture that have been like removed or
it's the same.
omitted?
It's the same, and that's why I would never say one translation is the very best. Ideally, I'd say, study and compare as many translations as you can, and if you can, and there is access to it now, there's so much software that helps you access the original words, go to the original words. Now, that's not what everyone is called to, but I would say, if you can, that would be my recommendation is, study diligently. But if not to, by God's grace, He's still able to talk to us through, the NIV or the message, or the passion. He's still able to communicate something.
I know the passion's all right. I like the passion.
Yeah, look into who wrote the passion, or how many people wrote the passion.
Who wrote the passion?
No, it wasn't a bad person. It was just one person. It was one person's interpretation. It's like, okay.
Is that bad?
When it comes to translating stuff like that, you want a team. Even a Septuagint was written by 70 or 77. You don't want one person, and they're going to account for all the various possibilities. Yeah. But again,
but if it's 70 people, I'm assuming they would have had like similar backgrounds. So it's the fact that there's 70 of them better if they're all coming from the same place.
You've heard. Well, they were all from different. I think they're all from different tribes, and so that's why there's a difference between 70 and it was how many from each tribe that made 70. I can't remember. But yeah, there's that. But then you also want there's safety in consensus, and so if we all, whether even if there are small differences in opinion, are able to come to consensus, there's safety there than one person. Like that's a dictatorship, and how many of those are good? So,
Mm.
and there's some discrepancies with the passion as well, but we don't need to go into that. Yeah.
Are you trying to know what's in Creed 3?
Yes. Maybe not in cinemas immediately, but I do want to watch it. I don't think they're doing something original though. A guy comes from your past, and it's like, oh, he's got beef now, and for some reason,
And why they
he
have to
has-
get arrested by the police?
Yeah.
Like go to chess club or something, you know?
Yeah, but
Break the mold.
That's been the story. Like I feel like we've seen the story before. Two guys coming up. One guy takes the fall. Normally he takes the fall for the one guy that stays out, and then he comes back later on in his life and he's coming to collect because he feels
Trying
he's
to get
old.
his revenge.
Like I feel like that's been done, and it's like, but the Creed movies always get me hyped. They always get me, yeah. So it'll be
I
interesting.
haven't watched
to
any
see.
of them, so I'm gonna try and power through them this weekend.
I like them. I really like them. Yeah.
Have you watched the Rocky movies?
I watched one of the Rocky movies.
Would you say the Creed movies are better than the Rocky movies?
I can't compare. I can't make that comparison. I've only seen the Creed movies properly. I can't even remember which Rocky I watched. I think I did watch one. I think it was the one that he faced the younger guy. But again, I didn't really feel it. But the Creed movies that I felt that I liked.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you see that interview that Michael Jordan had with that girl that he went to school with?
No.
Oh, it was great. So it was one red carpet event, and then she was interviewing Michael Jordan. He was like, "Oh yeah, we go way back." And I was like, "Oh yeah, you're the guy. You call me that the corny kid, right? You call me the corny kid, right?" And she was like, "No, I didn't say that." She was like, "Yeah, you said that. Yeah, you said that."
Yo. Hold grudges much?
Yeah.
Look at me now.
So funny. And then she was panicking, and then she tried to make jokes between him and what's his name, Jonathan Majors, about who's sexiest. And then they were like, "We don't do that around here." And then
Yo.
they were
so
putting it on her.
This was a funny in the sense of like bad for her funny.
Yeah.
Oh, stress.
I'll tell you the link afterwards. It was great. It was funny. It was great. What do you think about come-ups? So, do you think that there are things from our past that we should hold on for and give receipts if we're given the opportunity, or do you think bygones should just be bygones?
I don't like boxes, but I guess people would put me into the box of stoic when it comes to like philosophy and stuff like that. And so I think holding on to stuff ends up being more burden on you. What if you don't get the opportunity to give receipts and you've carried this your whole life? For what reason? And
Just
all
for the hope that you can, just for the hope.
I see that as a waste of time. Everything that we go through shapes us and brings us to where we are now. I don't think there's any need for sort of, oh, look at me now sort of thing. I don't believe in that. So yeah, I wouldn't do it. But it's
Yeah, because you don't like stunning.
It's funny when you see it done though.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You I'm guessing, are you holding on to anything from your past that if you see this person you'd be like, yeah.
There's a couple old girlfriends that were like, "Oh yeah." It's funny. Ouch.
Do it again, Joe.
No. Well, because actually, I might. No, seriously, I don't think so. But if I did see an ex-girlfriend, there might be a bit more spring on my step as I pass them on the street.
Did I tell you when I bumped into an ex-girlfriend?
No.
Yeah, I bumped into her at an old friend's sort of event, and there was no expectation at all that she would be there. But I bumped into her from across. I saw her when I was coming in, and I was like, "Huh, oh, okay." and she saw me, but obviously I've shaved my head and everything and changed somewhat. So she
You
didn't
didn't shave
actually.
your head, Peter.
Oh, my hair's fallen out.
Yeah,
Thus,
thank you.
God has decided to be my barber. That's, I've changed somewhat since they knew me. And so it was like, yeah, it was just it was weird. And I wasn't, when I had to go round there to go and help out with some technical stuff. And she was like, "Are you Peter?" I was like, "Yeah." You don't, because I've shaved my hair, you don't recognize me or something. I was like, "Oh, I thought it was you, blah blah blah," and I was just gonna keep it like copacetic and then move on. And then someone else from my old church came and was like, "Peter, hey," an African, so no regard for the fact that I'm talking to someone. "Peter, hey, do you live in Kent?" I was like, "Yes." "Oh, I have seen you with your daughter and your lovely wife." And I'm like, "Yo." I was gonna just keep all that quiet and keep moving on.
Nah, you just don't on these hoes sometimes.
And then she was like, oh, you're married and you got a child." I was like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Cool." I just kept it moving. I didn't wanna tell her my business, but
No.
yeah.
And then after you say that, you say, "So how's your husband doing?"
Someone was like, "Did you ask?" And I was like, "No, I didn't.
You
ask.
should have asked.
I didn't. No."
You should have asked. And the way he says no, you'd be like, "Oh, don't. Someone coming for you around the corner."
I don't know.
God's
That's
timing is the
true.
best timing.
I know that's true, but I don't know if he's got timing for her. But yeah,
Why, Peter? Why?
I didn't feel the need to do all of that. I wanted to just move on quickly, and be gone. But yeah,
No, sometimes it's good to stunt, man. Sometimes it's good to show your past that the future is better. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
That's right.
she tries to suggest, "Oh yeah, we should keep in touch." I was like, "Nah, it's cool."
Yo,
I was like,
at someone didn't say.
Look at that.
I was like, yeah. I got to run. I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." I'm like, yeah,
Let the past be the past.
yeah. That was funny though.
That's good. I don't know what else to talk about. I think I'm out of topics. Maybe there's anything you'd like to discuss on the
We're
podcast?
at 47.
Yeah, but I'm used to an hour. Wait, I think Andrew's cooking something in her mind. Nothing's cooking. Okay, nothing's cooking for Andrew. Anything for you? Anything you want to talk about, Peter?
Not necessarily something I want to talk about. I don't think I have anything worth talking about per se. Yeah.
Nah, that's not for the podcast. Well, it looks like
Spicy.
we're having
Spicy.
there's nothing spicy happening. We're currently experiencing performance issues.
I think 47 minutes is okay.
No, it's late. It's been a long day, you know.
Good morning.
Oops. But yeah, okay. Let's end it there because I don't want to rabble on when there's nothing to rabble on about. Yeah.
Cool.
Hookups?
Yeah. Cool. My hookup will be well, actually, no, this comes out on Monday, so there's no point. There's no point in that hookup. Yeah, no, you go first. I had a hookup, but it'll be gone by Monday, so
Okay. Well, I've got two hookups. Thanks.
okay.
The first one is a movie called Broker.
Oh.
It's a Korean movie that's out in cinemas at the moment, and it basically tells the story about this duo who steal a baby from a church baby box with the intent of selling
A
it
church
on.
baby box.
Yeah.
What's
So
a church baby box?
like a baby box is a place where mothers can come and leave children that they don't want,
Oh,
and
damn.
then yeah,
This is a thing.
yeah, it's a thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and and this one just happened to be like within a church, and so two guys were on shift, and so they took the baby, and then they want to go and sell it on the black market to make some money. But then the mom has second thoughts and she comes back and she wants to be involved in the process of being able to sell the baby. And it's just talking about the adventure of trying to sell this baby.
Oh my gosh.
It's really good. It's really good. It's Korean. It's got subtitles. All that good stuff. It was really good, wasn't it, babe? It was great. Nice little adventure.
All right. And your second hookup?
Second hookup is a Netflix series, 4 episodes, called The Secret. Oh,
I haven't watched that either.
oh. So it's basically the story. It's based on a true story, set in Northern Ireland, and I think it started in 1991. About this
I think you
dentist
mentioned this.
and this Sunday school teacher
Yeah, you mentioned
who are both married to different people, but they start to have an affair, and then the plot scheme to kill their respective spouses so that they can be together. And it just tells that story.
That's a spoiler.
No, because it's talking about it even says in the synopsis talking about murder and so they can be together.
Really?
Yeah. But it's really good. Yo, it was a roller coaster. We had many discussions about what is coercive behavior and what is not. I think women just need to learn how to take accountability for their actions. No. I see my wife does not agree.
Stress.
Yeah, that's me.
Cool. So my hookup will now be, I want people to just get yourself a little bit more educated on what AI is doing.
Jeez,
So there's lots of open AI stuff because the open source AI, Chat GPT, what's the other ones? There's a few. But all of these guys, all these AI sort of applications coming up, I think people should just be a little bit more educated on what AI is doing. On the one part, because it's not AI as we think AI is, or as we imagine AI would be. You know, the whole, it's what's it called? It's
learning and evolving.
Yeah, it's so intelligent and stuff. It's not all that.
Not yet.
Also, not well. Yeah. Also, what it can't do, in terms of if you're trusting AI to sort of write an article for you and stuff, it's not designed to be factually correct. It doesn't care about facts. And so you might want to check it. But then also know what you are doing and giving all the information that you are giving to AI. So that's all to be mindful of as well.
China's watching.
It's not a Chinese thing.
No, but wow, China be China, bro. Apparently, America might ban TikTok soon. Well,
They've been trying to do that, haven't they?
by now it's too late. They have all the information.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything. All your videos, all your pictures, they take all that information. We'll be tied you anyway. What am I saying? Shout out to the intro outro music, counters for the Audrey and Miz logo, Twitter at Defenders UK, Instagram at TBS Furnace. You can email us at tbsfurnace@mail.com. You can find us at soundcloud.com/Furnace no apostrophe, on all good podcast websites and apps. Furnace with the apostrophe. And that's it.
Sweet.
So this is the Blacksmith's Furnace signing out. Blow.